Sorry about that. I am having some really technical difficulties with my internet service provider, so I'll need to get in contact with them and see what's going on. So I'm going to finish this today's episode on a recording, so I can get this posted out and get this valuable content out today, and then we'll go back to the live videos next time. So basically, what I was saying before is, if you haven't started, I'm going to have the episode, the live version, and this is going to be the continued version. If you're starting with this video, jump back up and see the beginning start of this video at the live version. As well. So we're talking about publishing, and all these different ways that you can publish. And for me, it's video. It's getting more and more content. But then one thing that I learned this week that really hit home, and that is, basically the difference between logic and emotion on what sells. So when you're publishing, if you really want to make an impact in someone's life, you always have to think emotional versus logic. And this has been something I've known, but I haven't really used it. Like when I was in sales, I knew that I needed to sell off of logic. Or I'm sorry, take that back. I need to sell off emotions. And obviously you want some logic in there as well as, to kind of solidify what you're selling. In my case, while I'm sharing with you this, looking back, on my YouTube videos and everything that I posted in my Facebook group, it's all based on logic, but that really doesn't come back to an emotional connection with my following. You see what I'm saying? So basically, I want to share with you like my story, like where I started, why I started, and that sort of thing, just so I can connect with you. So let me just share with you that my backstory is this. When I started out as a junior accountant, right out of college, I was married to my wife. We already had 2 kids and actually 3 kids at the time when I started my accounting job. I'm a junior accountant. I'm working like my tail off, working 60 to 80 hours a week, and I'm making like $35,000 a year, right? So definitely at that point there was I remember a specific day when I stepped outside of my job, when it was, I'm working, full 12, 14, 16-hour days, and I called my wife and I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't sit there and do a $35,000 a year job and give away my life and come home at night and my babies are sleeping. You know what I'm saying? So at that point, that was when I started started thinking about it. Okay, first of all, for me, if you think about when you go into the next step I got some notes down here as well. So some of the things I wanted to accomplish from that, right, is first of all, I wanted to make money. So that's like a high level, right? I wanted to make more money for my family. The $35,000 a year salary, we weren't satisfied with that. But then you kind of got a deep dive into why, the true why behind it. So it's not just want to make more money. Money's just paper, right? So you want to take a look back. So if you're looking at your why, here's some steps that I would ask you to do is ask that question. Okay, I want to make more money. For me, this is how I did it. So at the time, we needed a bigger house, right? I wanted to make more money to buy a bigger house. Well, why did I want to buy a bigger house? Well, because we had 3 kids, about to have a 4th child. So think about this. We have 4 kids, 3 bedrooms, 1,200 square feet. Enough said, right? So we had kids everywhere. We're drowning with kids at this point. So obviously we wanted a bigger house. But then you got to look at why would a bigger house take care of this problem? So and I look back, on a marriage standpoint, right? So we have kids, across the hall, in our room, everywhere, right? So how could you have a healthy marriage, right? With no space, right? No ability to just spend time with each other, right? So when I look back to my true why of wanting to make more money, it wasn't just to make more money or buy a bigger house. It was we wanted more fulfillment out of our marriage and for our kids by having a bigger house, having more things. So it all comes back down to me. My why was my fulfillment for my family. That's what got me motivated, right? So that was my why. Once I discovered my why, then kind of got the train moving, right? So the next so the next thing that we have to talk about is like my journey to get to where I'm at. So, I went from junior accountant all the way up to director of analytics versus, my entrepreneur journey kind of overlaps and became a full-time entrepreneur that works out of his home office, right? So, but it goes back to when I was a junior accountant, I had that why, and then the next thing, like then I knew what I needed to do, but then it wasn't until I had an epiphany, right, that really changed my course of my life. And so I had my why. So then I just didn't have the know-how, right? So the epiphany was I developed this addiction to self-improvement. It was like an addiction of mine. Like I wanted to know more. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to learn different aspects in all these different areas, right? So I had this addiction. I'm constantly so I'm still a junior accountant. At that point, I'm doing things, and my current CFO at the time, he said to me, if you want to get promoted and make more money, you have to be the one that they always look to you upon, right? So my entrepreneur journey started when I was working my way up in my career, because it starts with that self-addiction, right? So that self-addiction kind of it led me to where I'm at now, right? So that self-improvement addiction, right? And so at that point, if I look back at my career, I used my knowledge all the way up, learning more and more and more, and learning different things, different tactics, different ways to improve. And people were coming to me all the time in different areas. And for all those people that did work with me, you'd understand like I became the go-to in my department, and then eventually it outspread that. Like I became the go-to, right? And that was very crucial in me in my journey, because if I didn't do that, there were a lot of things that I wouldn't have learned. So your entrepreneur, if you're wanting to be an entrepreneur, or if you're just wanting to better yourself, or better your income, or better your job, it might not look like, you might not be feeling like that you're actually working towards that goal. But think about this, like my entrepreneurial goals, my entrepreneurial success has come back, and I can tie it back to this time where I'm working and I'm getting better. I'm working and I'm getting better. I'm working, I'm getting better. I'm improving. So a constant improvement, and so that was like the epiphany that I had, and that epiphany alone is what led me to all the long journey to where I'm at now today, and as a full-time entrepreneur that gets to travel with his wife, and that gets to at any given time I get to go and have lunch with my kids, right? So that was the start, right? So my addiction of self-improvement was my epiphany, right? So then my plan was, I became very knowledgeable, and then worked my way up to the top, right? And then to the director of analytics and finance and all those things. So but then within this there's an overlapping. So there's an overlapping of me from my entrepreneur journey and my corporate career journey, right? So somewhere along the lines, like I met my new CFO, my new boss at the time, and I remember we're in a car, and I'm sure when he watches this video later, he'll know the exact conversation I'm going to say. And he's sitting in the car, and he says, "You should be an entrepreneur. You have that entrepreneur spirit." And I specifically said to him, No. You start your own business, and I'll go be your CFO, because I don't have that, right? But he led me to a podcast. I literally started with a podcast that said, hey, go buy a product from China, ship it to Amazon, make money. And it was that simple, right? Not. But that's where it started, right? That's where like I got turned on to entrepreneurship, and then over those upcoming weeks, months, and years, like my mindset changed from like I couldn't be an entrepreneur to I don't know how I could be anything else but an entrepreneur. That was the transformation that happened with me over that next year to 18 months. Like now looking back, I don't know how I couldn't do something like this or couldn't be an entrepreneur. But that was the that was the epiphany led to the transformation, which puts me out to here I am today, we're on track to have a fairly large, successful 2020 with our Amazon store. I got Amazon businesses, and doing all these different things. It all started with that epiphany of addiction to self improvement. So, not that self improvement is going to be your epiphany, right? So you might have something else, but the first thing that led to that was finding my true why. I found my true why, and then I could dig deep and I can find that true why, and I can always lean back and say, okay, I need to make more money, but it wasn't making more money that excited me. It was having a bigger house, because having a bigger house meant having more space for our kids. It meant having a healthier relationship with my wife. When you dig down deep, those are your whys. It's not making more money. Money doesn't give fulfillment. It's the things that you do with it that can fulfill. If your fulfillment is like ours now, is like we love to give back to different charities. Why? Because it makes us feel good that we can give to other people, we can give to other organizations, we can help in different areas. It makes us feel good. So in a selfish reason, we give, right? Because it gives us fulfillment. We do it for ourselves, and that's a huge piece of why people say money doesn't fulfill. Money can fulfill if you have the right why, right? And that's kind of led to kind of where I am now. So basically, I went from staff accountant to full-time entrepreneur, and I say all that is because one of the things that Russell Brunson talks about in the Funnel Hacking Live Challenge, or the One Funnel Away Challenge, is that to go out there, put yourself out there, and share your story. And the first time you share it, it might sound like it might not be as clean, might not be as crisp. You might go back, 100th time you shared it, it's going to be a lot cleaner, a lot more crisp. You're going to know exactly what to say, when to say it, because it's just repetition. Just like you have muscle memory when you're for me, like when you're rock climbing, or if you ever did sports, your baseball swing, it was just muscle memory, right? So it's the same thing with video creation, right? It's memory that you do it time and time and time and time again. You're going to get better and better and better, and say it a better way, say it a different, it's just going to go from here to here the more that you practice. So, I mean, we've all heard it, practice makes perfect. So, but get out there and do it. Don't hold back because you want it to be perfect the first time. It's never going to be perfect. This isn't perfect. What I'm saying now isn't perfect. A year from now, I'm going to have the same speech, and it's going to be better. I promise you. So don't let the perfection stand in the way of making progress, because I promise you, progress, and incremental progress, daily progress, weekly progress, it can lead to huge things if you're consistent. You just got to be consistent as well. So, but that's kind of led me to where I am now. Like that journey has led me to the point where if you ask my wife, like, what am I good at? I'm good at figuring out how to do almost anything, right? If there's a wall in our way, like whether it's creating new videos or creating different things in the business world. Hey, this wall is keeping us from growth. Guess what? I can knock it down. I can knock it down because I had practice. I've had practice of going up to walls, coming up to challenges, and just breaking them down. But I didn't start this way. It started with, I had this addiction to self-improvement, right? I just had this addiction of getting better and better, right? And just constantly improving, incremental progress. And over time, it's led me to the point where I can step back and say, I don't care what the wall is. I can knock it down. I can figure it out. And I know exactly how to figure out anything at this point, right? And exactly how to make things more efficient and all these things. But it's been a long journey to get there, right? So I guess I'll leave you with this. That was a long rant about my self journey, but I wanted to kind of connect with you and share with you more about what I am, what I do, and why I do it, right? And it all comes back to that true why. So first, before you jump off this video, do this. Comment below. Ask yourself those questions. Okay, what's my why? So if I'm speaking to a young entrepreneur, or wanting to be an entrepreneur, a young, let's say a single male, right, or female, it doesn't matter, right? So and your why is, I want to buy a new car, right? Let's really think about that. What is it about a new car that really gets you going, right? It's not the new car. It's how the new car makes you feel, right? It's what the new car does for you. I was fortunate enough because our fourth quarter was so big to go and buy a brand new Dodge Challenger, and that was talk to my wife. That's been my dream car, is a Dodge Challenger, and I bought it. I bought it for myself, 2 weeks ago, right? And I was able to do that. But it wasn't the car. It's how the car makes me feel. It's the confidence the car gives me when I drive it, right? It's just all of those feelings behind it. So when you go and ask your why, don't start with, do start with high level, but then ask, okay, I want to make more money. Why do I want to make more money? Okay, why is having a bigger house more important? Okay, what about having more space with all the kids more important? Oh, okay. Well, now we know it's to have more fulfillment in my marriage. If you look at making more money to more fulfillment in my marriage, it takes a long ways to get there, right? So a lot of different questions to ask yourself to get there, right? So ask yourself those questions. Start with here and then dig down. Because if you don't know your true why, if you haven't dug down and deep, I promise you that is a fuel that you can feed off of for a long time, and then your whys will change, and your whys will even get my marriage is fulfilled. Okay, so what's my why now? Well, we want to travel. Why? Because I want to spend more time with my wife in all these different places. Why? I want a more fulfilling marriage. Oh wait, snap! That's the same why. Oh my! It's like you fuel off of these things for such a long time, right? And so just go down, find your real why, get real with yourself, and I think that would be the biggest thing to keep you motivated. It's going to be the one thing, when I go back and I think about my entrepreneur journey, I had a time period where I worked entrepreneur, I had our own business. It took me 2 years for my wife to quit her job, and that was a incredible day, right? I got to call her and say, hey, forget the problems you're having at work, because you're going to put in your notice. And that was one of the best, most proudful calls that I could give my wife, right? So that was I can't remember where I was going with this now. So that was one of the big moments, right? 1 year in, but meanwhile I had to work another year at my job, and I'm working at my job here. So as well, while I'm trying to create my business, right? So I'm waking up at 4:30 in the morning and working till 7:30 in the morning, and then for my personal business, then going to the office and working 6 to 7 at night, and then coming home and being the dad and the husband I needed to be, to give them the fulfillment that they need to have a good life, right? So honestly, that could be exhausting. Think about it. 4:30 you're doing this, and then at 7:30 you're doing this, and then when you get home at 7 to 10 or 11 or 12, you're doing this, and it can be exhausting to have to wake up 5-6 hours later and do it over and over and over and over again. But you know how I was able to do it? I was able to deep down and find my true why. With my true why being I wanted to make more money, I would have given up in a week's time of that schedule. I could not have lasted a week with that schedule if my why was to make more money. But because my why was not to make more money, not to buy a bigger house, it was not to have more room for the family, it was I wanted to have a more fulfilling marriage, and I wanted my kids to have a more fulfilling life, more utility in their life. That why you can fuel from. That why gets you up at 4:30 a.m. That why gets you going and motivated. So just ask yourself your why. And when you find that why, comment below what your real why is. I want to see the real you. I want the real you to come out, just like I gave you the real me, right? So comment below and go ahead and like the video, subscribe to my channel, and thanks for listening, because today I wanted to be real with everyone listening today, and I'm hoping to bring more of that out. And if you liked it, put that below as well. Say, hey, here's my why, and I appreciate you getting real. So that keeps me motivated on creating more videos like this. But thanks for jumping on, and we'll talk to you here in a few days. We'll do another live video on the Funnel Hacking Challenge. Thanks.